what do you make of this event, John? Or realistic? Look, it would be great. I would love this thing to be successful, but man, it just seems unworkable. It just seems unworkable. I mean, I'm not getting as much of a buzz now. Again, when I covered the event the first couple of years, the 1 year in L.A. and San Diego, and I think you were there, it was remarkable. I mean, the Korean community in L.A. came out, the Japanese community came out. San Diego, they basically shut down the city for a couple of nights for the World Baseball Classic. It was remarkable. It was great baseball. Fans really got into it, but I don't know. It just seems to have kind of petered out.
Well, Jeff, here's how I look at it. And first of all, I'm a strong advocate for the tournament, as you know. So I'll acknowledge that off the start. This is a competition that really serves two purposes. Number one is to have a tournament similar to the World Cup of Hockey, if you will, that's run by MLB and the union, and serves as the best on best tournament for the world in our sport, which I guess unlike in hockey, or at least how the case has been for hockey since '98, where there have been the Olympics with the NHL players, we've never had a tournament like this before.
Mm-hmm.
So there is, I believe, in general, Jeff, a necessity to have a best on best competition in some form for baseball. It just seems like that should take place in the world where you've got the best players, or at least most of the best players, which is the case with this tournament, involved. And obviously the Olympics, unless something changes and maybe it goes to L.A. in 2024, it's just difficult to get the MLB players involved. So that's part of it. The other part is it allows you to grow the game both, I believe, within even a country like the U.S. and also in the international realm where you've got a country like China where they can really develop. Once you have a sport at this level and a competition at this level, then you see government funding go into the sport. So I think it really helps you plant your flag around the world in different places where you want to grow the game. But also, and I was making this point last night, in the U.S., even as much as Americans love baseball, you've got a player of Nolan Arenado's caliber. Now, I believe Arenado is one of the three best players on the planet right now. I think he's that good. I think you might say four, but he is, to me, conservatively in the top five. I mean, he is that good. And yet, because he plays in Colorado, his notoriety is, I think, far lower than it should be. And ideally, if you have a tournament like this and you put Team USA on television screens for a couple weeks, you help fans in L.A., you help fans in Boston, New York, Chicago, Florida, everywhere understand what this young man could do and his overall ability. So I think that maybe allows you to help grow more of a national following, which admittedly, Jeff, as we've talked about before, you see it strongly in the NFL and the NBA, but not so much in baseball because it's so regional. So
right.
I think it does help you market your game both globally and also domestically in a way that I do believe has a really strong commercial benefit in addition to the competitive benefit of just simply feeling the need to have a competition of this type for your sport around the world.
John, who's the favorite going into this event?
Jeff, I looked at the rosters yesterday, and it's interesting because here in the States, you're going to hear critics say, oh, there's no Kershaw, there's no Bumgarner, there's no Trout, and that's all true. But you look at the rosters 1 through 28, and I don't see a better roster 1 through 28 than the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
You could argue, is the Dominican as good? Perhaps. But I think those are probably, looking at them, the two best rosters that I see, the Dominican and the Americans. The Dominican, I think, Jeff, we have to say, in terms of the favorite and the team that is the team to beat, so to speak, to use kind of the cliche, until proven otherwise, you'd have to say that's the Dominican because they were 8-0 in the last tournament. And they really, their brand of baseball, I think, really shined through. Their infield will be exceptional, and, of course, Jose Bautista, part of their outfield. They've got Starling Marte in their outfield, Gregory Polanco. Nelson Cruz is there as a DH outfielder. Cano and Machado up the middle with Beltre at third. I mean, that's an all-star team.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that the Dominican, usually comes down to pitching. But I was actually looking at their rotation just last night, Jeff, the way that they were able to win it in 2013. And their rotation in that tournament was Volquez and then two pitchers who did not appear in the major leagues last year, Wandy Rodriguez and Samuel Deduno.
Right.
So in this tournament, Jeff, it's all about, I think, who is game ready right now and who is tuned up and able to win in March, which American players, and Canadian players, North American players are not necessarily accustomed to doing. But Jeff, I look at it and say the U.S. is 10-10 all time in this tournament. That's not good. And it's not as though this tournament's sneaking up on anybody. We've known it was going to be in March 2017 for the last 4 years. So prepare accordingly. And I think Jim Leland, knowing what a motivator that he is, and how seriously he is taking it and how much respect I know the players will have for him, I think he'll get them to buy in. But this is a tough thing. You have 3 days, Jeff. 3 days. There's a 3-day. Basically, there's one workout, 2 exhibition games, and then you play for real. So that's a really short time to get a routine figured out, to build any level of chemistry and familiarity. So it's a challenge for Jim in comparison to, you referenced Cuba a short time ago. Cuba, I saw a report, they're going to play 10 exhibition games in February.